suffering, and they are victim of this BJP government, of their fascistic type ideology, and also people in Pakistan who are struggling for democracy, and a democracy without the military control. So, and also all those Kashmiris who are struggling for Azadi. So I think we have Tanveer with us, and I hope he can hear me now, and we will be able to hear him. Tanveer, so what was your experience like? I know that you went to Kotli and you had tea in the tea kada, and I'm not sure if you met Claire, because the event which was going to happen didn't happen. So, what were your experiences? Dadial, the connection, the internet connection in Dadial is bad. Vikas, where are you connected us with? Connected with us from?
I'm in Islamabad right now.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, so
That's why you are okay.
Yeah, but also at my hometown, like there in.
Tanveer, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear all of you. I can hear
Go
you.
on, go on.
Can you hear
I'm
me?
going to interrupt now. You say whatever you want.
Okay, thank you. I just want to say that it's fascinating to hear so many.
No, Tanveer, sorry, I can't hear you. We had you okay for a couple of words, but then you gone. I don't know whether you moved your position or something.
What were to happen if he turned his camera off, Shams? Does it give more power to the volume, perhaps?
I don't know. I have Ifat there, and probably they know more. I don't know about these technicalities, unfortunately.
Sometimes if you turn your video camera off and just have the sound, Cotley are unable to join as well. So we are two in Azad down, but hey, that's such is life.
Okay. Well, let's see if we can, if Tanveer resolve this issue. And yeah, so I think we move on to what are we should start with the barriers, and then we will come up to the opportunities. And I'll start with Mary. Mary, since you have become well, let me ask one question from Mary and Karen and Lee and Claire. Were you aware of Kashmiri situation and issue before 2019, August 2019, when Modi government did all that? We'll start with Mary.
Yes, the social media. It's all about social media. I didn't even know that Kashmir existed until about 2014, 2015. I started seeing pictures in photojournalism of Kashmiri activists marching for Gaza. That's when I first became aware. And Kashmiri workers protesting against the long ongoing strikes against the Indian government of government workers who are, it's a labor strike. And I had been following that for a long time. But I really didn't know anything about it until Kashmiri activists on social media began to look at my writings on Palestine and the Rohingya and other struggles and say to me, you need to take a look at our struggle, and you need to study it, and you need to inform yourself, and you need to write about it. And I said, yeah. I was busy. I put them off, and they were persistent. One thing about Kashmiris is they don't take no for an answer. They persisted. You need to study our struggle. You need to inform yourself. And so after several months, I said, okay, look, I'll do it, And so I took several months. I went to the library, the University of Texas, and I spent several months. And the turning point for me was seeing how similar it was to the Palestinian struggle. It was an anti-colonial struggle. It was based on Indian British colonialism. It had so many aspects in common with the Palestinian struggle that it like clicked. And then once I understood what that struggle was all about, and I really informed myself about the details, about the use of rape, mass rape as a weapon of war, about the forced disappearances of thousands of Kashmiris, including kids, about the torture of young boys, including using torture in prisons, about the occupation, which I never tire of saying is almost the size of the entire US military, just in Kashmir, which is the size of Wyoming. And it was totally, my understanding of Kashmir is totally based on those Kashmiri activists who wouldn't take no for an answer and who remained until we were banned. Claire and I and many others are banned in India and occupied Kashmir. They were my main source of information about what's going on. If I had questions or problems, I would talk to the Kashmiris in private and they would let me know. So that's a valuable source of information that's been cut off, which is why India does it. But all of this has to be attributed to the remarkable work of Kashmiri citizen journalists on social media. They pioneered the use of social media as a tool in their freedom struggle. So they're remarkable. They don't take no for an answer.
Okay, let's ask the same question from Lee and then Karen. Lee, were you aware of this Kashmiri situation before 5th of August 2019?
Look, I think it's a really good question because I think it illustrates, our answers illustrate one of the big challenges we have. Like, my story is similar to Mary. I'm 70. I've been active in politics since I was 15, and much of it international solidarity. And I'm ashamed to say that, and this is Vietnam War, Latin America, East Timor, which is actually an interesting case study that could be useful for our Kashmiri work. And of course, the South African anti-apartheid struggle. And it was 2018. And I, as well as being a community activist, I was in Parliament for 18 years. And I'm ashamed to say, it was not until 2018, and I was actually approached by some Kashmiris and Pakistanis and saying, can you speak about this issue? And then when I left Parliament, I was able to go to Kashmir. And so that's when I started to build awareness. The fact that people like Mary and myself, who are very much part of the progressive movements in our country, we're very political, we're very active, did not have that awareness. Yeah, I wish, I'm a bit ashamed of myself, but I think objectively it illustrates the big problem that we have.
Yes.
And again, all our movements have had to grapple with this. And that's why I think you've heard from so many speakers give emphasis to building awareness. So again, yes, I'm happy to come back into the struggle, but I'll leave it for now because I think it's useful to hear people's stories, how they came to this issue.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Lee. Karen, what was your, how did you become aware of situation in Kashmir and all this?
I think it's probably first important to think about our history and our role, and that people have been very aware. So while we haven't been as aware maybe in the last generation, that it was the first Canadian ambassador to the United Nations, who also was the United Nations Security Council president, Lieutenant Andrew McNaughton, or Guest General Andrew McNaughton, I should should say, that actually led the work that led to Resolution 47, which promises the plebiscite, which is really the conversation that we're having today. The promise that the international community has not been able to deliver on over the last 7+ decades. So, I mean, Canadians were very aware of that issue and very engaged, but just as Mary and Lee have said, really, it's been off the radar. I mean, there's a small diaspora population in the, just in the thousands here in Canada. And it really, the last time it had been mentioned in Parliament, in our federal Parliament, was back in the early part of this century, and hadn't even been in the question period or any statements or anything. So, yeah, I mean, very much when the Human Rights Commission reports started to come out before 2019, the 2 UN reports, I mean, I think that's when we started to get, our attention and start to work within our movements, because as Lee said, I mean, many of us are very engaged in doing a lot of work with, other movements as allies. And so, then in that way we were able to, the Kashmiri community was able with the allies to mobilize and be very much on the streets immediately after August 5th here, especially in Toronto, but across different places in Canada, and to start to mobilize, and then for us to start to do outreach. And I mean, if an example would be, and I don't know that my personal example matters so much. I mean, the issue is, we did have 3 parliamentary petitions in our last session of government. We reached out to all of the candidates during our recent federal election. We had a very strong and solid response from the Bloc Québécois, one of our 5 political parties here in Canada that indicated they were ready to take action. We'll see if that does follow through, but now that the election's over. And during the election, we also, wasn't large numbers, but we ended up with people in a third of the constituencies or ridings, so probably like 130 ridings across Canada, committing that they were going to talk to their candidates from all the 5 or more political parties that would be running in those ridings. So I'm not sure everybody followed through, but they made that pledge and that commitment. So it's not totally off the radar, but as I said, I mean, we were the first internationals to show up in those 3 particular camps around Muzaffarabad and elsewhere in AJK over towards the line of control. So yeah, I mean, I certainly, it wasn't on my radar enough. I'd be, along with Mary and Lee on that as well. But 2019, and particularly the domicile law being put in place in March of 2020 is what really needs to be mobilizing us now, because we are in full settler colonial mode. It's not just an occupation, it's settler colonization. So that's very appropriate.
Yes. So basically, it's not necessarily that people know and don't care. More likely, people don't know, and that there is a perception within the Kashmiris, not only inside Kashmir but also amongst Kashmiri diaspora. The world just does not care.
Yes.
And maybe there are a lot of people who do care, but they don't know about you.
Don't know.
Yeah. So that is something which obviously we will talk about when we talk about the opportunities. But let's try once again if we can hear Tanveer. Yeah, Tanveer, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, please. I asked you the question before. I think you heard the question. So can you just try again if you can, please?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. So first of all, it's on time.
If I bring him on his own.
I think it would be worth him actually just trying to cut your video, Tamara, and go with voice and see if that would work, maybe.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, Tanveer, go on.
First of all, and I think that many thanks to Claire different people. And I think this is a major milestone for us people living in Jammu and Kashmir. I think we can learn a lot from these experiences of these various people, of these various activists. Going back to your question, in terms of what happened that day, I would say, well, it's a fantastic place. The person who owns that tea house has spent a lot of time and resources and thinking to create a great it could not launch the event uh, um, is a issue, and I think that's something we all need to bear in mind. And as we move forward, we need to think a lot about how to overcome or bypass these sensitivities that these various countries have about this territory. And the sensitivity obviously revolves around the water resources and the geographical location of this territory. Is just like that familiar business phrase that we have, which happens to be right smack in the middle of civilization, Hindus, Buddhists. As we move forward, I think it's humanitarian aspect is very, very, of course, and that should not be minimized. Based on solutions which the world can relate to, and the world these activists and management technology can do much to India, Pakistan, China, continuing America. Yes.
Thank you very
I
much,
hope you got all that.
Tanveer. Thank you, Tanveer. I am sorry that we could not hear all of what Tanveer said, but we heard some parts of it, and
Okay.
yeah, because the sound, is just sound even is not really fluent. So yeah, so um, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't have any other solution how to hear what Tanveer has to say. But hopefully soon I will do a special show with Tanveer, maybe from a place with better internet connection. Unfortunately, he does not come to Islamabad, and that's why we can't have a proper conversation with him. But let's hope that we find some enhancing device which some people use in Azad Kashmir, and they get better connection. Thank you very much, Tanveer, for your efforts, and I will at the maybe next time we will do the WhatsApp, and because we are running out of time, so I think we need to move on and ask Claire. Claire, what you what the barriers you have faced till now? And obviously, I will ask this question from all others involved in Let Kashmir Decide as well. So this is, we'll start with Claire. And we are running behind the time, but I think it's okay. We can we can have that. Yeah, go on.
I'll be brief. I mean, I think the political divides are one of the biggest barrier because, it's about being democratic, and there are many people, we all have our views, whoever we are, wherever we are, and obviously different societies deal with it differently. And we have to be able to share our views and people to respect those and not take them as a criticism. So, for example, in India, we see the Indian Hindutva government, as soon as anybody says anything against them, they're so sensitive and they just lock up. And instead of encouraging dialogue, they shut everybody else down. And that's not how it should be. And I think this issue of trying to connect from human being to human being, it seems to be a lot that people can't understand or take in, and we'll bring it back to the politics or the the religion, and it's not about that. So there is lots of education within that regard. I think also about campaigning and the best way that you can campaign. So many people are doing the best that they can, including ourselves, but by unity and teamwork we can find better ways, and enhance it and give suggestions to one another. So I think some people have been campaigning in a certain way, and by coming outwards a little bit more, doing things in different ways, we might have some impact. So by having a team, we can do that. Obviously, I did hit problems on my tourist visa in Kashmir. I didn't realize how big the movement was. I didn't realize how much support that was out there, and it threw up a lot of different things. And so sadly, from being able to just go into the event and have a cup of tea as a tourist, because of the movement that we've created here and the Let Kashmir Decide dynamic, sadly, it was deemed as a security issue and things that happened, and we couldn't have the event. What I'm very grateful for, Tanvir Ahmed still went along there and had his cup of tea, even though our formal event as Let Kashmir Decide couldn't go ahead. There was Tanvir, regardless of his own ideologies and beliefs and what he thinks, he got behind the tea effort. He got behind the humanitarian effort and went and had his tea, and he will share his perspectives of how he sees that, and that's perfectly fine in my opinion, because other people share their perspective. So a big challenge is people's, I want to say, bigness, attitude, heart, to understanding others and accepting the differences. This is a human mandate. Politicians are human. The Pakistan government are human. The Indian government are human. Those that, all world governments are human. We should all be able to gather around this mandate. It's for solutions. So it's on that kind of concept that we take this. I'm not here, or we're not here, to tell Kashmiris how they can fight their battles or any of the groundwork dynamics. That's for them. But we are here to raise awareness and bring out the voices or the dynamics in a way that can help. Because as you said earlier, Shams, I too believe there are many good people in the world that care. They're getting on with their lives because they're good people and they care about the people around them. If they knew that they could act in such a way to help the people of Kashmir, I believe that they would. And therefore, the raising of awareness, for me personally, is vital. And any way and means that we can try and do that whilst respecting others and bring out Kashmiri's voices is important to me, and I think important to all of us on here. To refer to what Parveen was saying earlier, the work that we can all do at the community level is massive. And I've seen Parveen's work. It's creative, it's thoughtful. It can also go beyond her community. It's not just her community. With us all here, we can share those ideas out so they reach America and Australia. Parveen's had Kashmiri exhibitions. She has aspirations to go around the UK. Because we need to show people about the Kashmiri culture as well. Parveen's had sit-ins, vigils, anything that she can do to think outside the box. As a British Kashmiri, where people have kept Kashmiri's hopes alive for 70 years with the knowledge, with the information, and then it's like Parveen now sharing that outwards. If we had 1,000 or 100 Parveens in the UK, we would see a huge difference. And that's what I, and all of us here, are urging others to do. Take this campaign as your own. highlight the Kashmir abuse. We can share things
Yeah.
and just
Let's.
all one level.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay. Let's ask Mary as well. Mary, what you think are the barriers which are slowing down or preventing this work from going forward? Because this initiative has a huge potential. Like you said, the anti-apartheid movement and the solidarity movement with all other struggle against oppression. So what are the barriers you have experienced or felt so far?
Well, I'll be very brief because I want to hear more from Parveen. I think one of them is the attempt to silence Kashmiris and their supporters on social media. All of the all of the censorship that's involved on social media, on Twitter, on Facebook, and on YouTube. It's very, very difficult. Not impossible, but it's difficult to collaborate. And number two, the elephant in the room is probably people's attitude about unity with Kashmir. That is a very divisive issue for several reasons. Those who don't want to be part of Kashmir, those who do want Kashmir to unite with Pakistan. That's not an issue for the solidarity movement to decide. It's a movement solely that rests with the Kashmiris in a referendum, and their political process has nothing to do with us. Our struggle is simply to make it possible for them to make a decision. And so we want to minimize that difference. And you can have any position you want on Kashmir, whether for or against. This coalition is for ending the occupation of Kashmir, for supporting their struggle, and nothing else. We don't want anything to stand in the way of unity. And then we have to, and that's really basically it: social media censorship and the question of Pakistan. But I think there's enough people of goodwill that we can forge unity. I think we can do it. I don't mean we, I mean all of us together.
Yeah, let's ask Lee. Lee, in your view, or from your experience, what are the barriers at the moment, and how we can overcome them? Please, Lee.
Look, I think the huge barrier is the Indian government, because it has this insidious impact on. I'd like to start off actually by picking up a comment that, in case people didn't, sorry, that Parveen made in the chat. She said, India has a romantic presence in the world, Bollywood, music, the Beatles. And this is actually a huge problem. People think that it's all wonderful, it's it's an exciting country. And this really suits the Western world, because the Western world, particularly, like, I won't go into all the details, but you'd be aware of the stepping up their hostility towards China. And yes, there's major problems there, but stepping up hostilities isn't the solution. And India is a big supporter of the West. And so there's a whole complexity there, which I think plays out in why there's so few stories in our Western media. And like seriously, we virtually get none here at all. It just shocks me, the crimes. And I know that applies to many other struggles like Palestinians, Rohingyas, etc. But when it comes to Kashmir, it's zero. So I think looking at this issue, because it's not just the Kashmiris who are also being victimized, it's the Dalits, Muslims right across India, Christians, and what the Modi government is doing, it is fascist. And I'm careful of using that word because people often get quite alarmed about it, and there's the implications, etc. But that's what its policies are. It's state fascism now. And so how we address this, I think, does need to be a big part of our movement, because it's part of building awareness, and that's the key part of the problem. Like Mary gave the figures about the military occupation, equivalent to the US military machine, is in one state of India. Like, it is extraordinary. There's so little awareness. And I think raising the awareness about the rights of the people of the Kashmiris and taking it back to India is a critical part of what we're trying to do. Thanks.
Okay, yeah. I think now let's move on to the opportunities, because I think we can go on and on about barriers. There are many, and they all need to be addressed. But because of the time issue, let's move on to the opportunities. How people see, what opportunities people see to make this campaign more effective, to make more people aware of the situation, and make more people aware that when you are fighting against any occupation, you have to link up all those forces who want to bring peace and some kind of democratic decision. You have to link up. So how to do that? And what are there any opportunities to do that? I'll again start with Mary.
Me, I'm dying to hear. Parveen probably could answer this much better.
Okay, go on. We'll start with Pavina and
Yes, because we
Mary's
have-
insistence.
yes,
Yeah, go on.
Yes.
Oh, thank you
I don't
very
wanna
much.
hug.
Thank you for your compliments. Definitely lots of barriers. We know that it's a cultural war. It's a financial war. It's a global war. Sometimes when you think about the issues that are happening, there's opportunity. And I think the opportunities are definitely the use of social media, definitely the presence of us educating or re-educating people about history. I mean, you've got the Black Lives movement, so why can we not have a Kashmiri movement in the sense of re-educating what human rights are, re-educating everybody about what we as human beings deserve wherever we are in the world. So there's lots of opportunities, and I think because of social media and the many platforms of social media, we can express ourselves more, we can unite more, we can bring everybody together more on one cause. So there's different opportunities, obviously, but I think once again, start from your local communities, start from your local media, start from doing different initiatives. But right now, because of movements like the Black Lives Matter, Black History movement, and re-energizing who we are as a people in our countries, like you talk about Australia, what happened in Australia, the colonization. So this speech, this conversation, this narrative is very much in the media, very much in our schools, very much in our local communities and the conversations we have. So this year and in the next few years is such an opportunity and such a I forgot the word now. But it's time that we wake up and say, okay, let's rewrite some of the mistakes of history. Let's rewrite our history for our kids or what is happening now. So it's just a brilliant time. Social media, local activism, through poems, through writing, through exhibition. So, there's a lot of opportunities, and hopefully we will get there in the end one day. But also let's leave legacies for our children. Even if we can't achieve something now, at least we start the platforms and the foundations from which they can work from. So I think that's essential. And this is a time. It's definitely Kashmiris stand up for what is right for them, but also have other people such as Mary, Karen, Lee, Claire, all of us working together to put Kashmir on a platform, on an open platform where we can have open discussions and never be afraid. I mean, Kashmiri people, like Mary said, we are never afraid. We sacrificed a lot in our lives, like the Palestinian people, like South Africans. You sacrifice a part of yourself in order to achieve something. So, the opportunities are great. And because of social media and because of these narratives and conversations, we can achieve great things.
Thank you very much.
Well,
Parveen, and I think in last about 10 minutes, we have to conclude it. And, this opportunity session is on. And, Mary, what you see as opportunities?
I think that Parveen said it very well. One thing is we really have to develop as much as we can social media. in reaching out and educating people, trying to find ways like the Kashmiris themselves do around those restrictions. I mean, they get shut down and they open up another account, and they get shut down there and they open up another one. They're relentless. I think we have to continue to do that. And I also think we really need to get onto the campuses. It's really, it's students. We need to reach students. We need to, and you know, Azadi is a very inspiring concept, that whole concept of freedom. It's a very inspiring thing. And I think that it would really resonate, like Claire says, on a human level, it would resonate with students. And so we need to find ways to get people onto the campuses. We don't necessarily have to be there, but Claire is a model. She goes out to Belfast and she leaflets on the streets. We could go to the campuses, the local campuses, and we could leaflet on the campuses. We can try to find out what the student groups are, the Palestinian groups, any kind of Black Lives Matter groups. We can start looking around for potential allies, but we need to find inroads onto these campuses in one way or another, because and through the community and diaspora, we need to begin to find people who would be interested in doing something. And as Claire said, reach out to them with the vision that Kashmiris have of their own freedom struggle. And I think that we can, and also talk to Palestinian groups, Rohingya. There aren't that many Rohingya groups yet, but there are plenty of Palestinian groups. Reach out to them for common action. We're not trying to pirate their movement. We're trying to strengthen their struggle of the Palestinians, which we are involved in. We're also involved in those struggles, and strengthen the Kashmiri struggle.
I mean, particularly when India and Israel are coming together through the way.
Yes. So that's all I have to say. I want to hear from other people, but yes.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you very much. And Claire, you have to say?
Yeah, I mean, I think what everybody else has said there has been brilliant. I mean, the students, absolutely, without a doubt. And I know there are student groups that I met with when I was out in Kashmir and Islamabad that are doing work themselves at their levels, and they could connect. If we could get groups open now because of social media on different campuses. I mean, I'm thinking locally for me initially Scotland, because that's my area. Other people could work in theirs. Ways of doing that. You know, the British Kashmiri, the diaspora, they will have children at universities. They could inform their children, speak to their children and say, like, what can you do? Where are the opportunities? Let us know. I will happily come to any university and meet with people. And again, you know, if we can link them up with examples there. There's so much we could do, Shams.
Okay, let's ask Lee what opportunities she sees, and Karen, and then Wakas, and then we have to conclude the program. Yeah.
Look, I very much agree with the earlier speakers. I think there is huge potential support. And I think this brings us back to the mandate, because the mandate, the Let Kashmir Decide mandate, is a way to engage with people, and it's a way to build the support, because we need something that we build it around. And it's a very simple statement. Yes, I imagine it can be improved on, but it really is something that we can take to people. We take to people, but I think we also taking it to organisations like unions, overseas aid organisations, faith groups, community organisations. You know, that you can have discussions in all sorts of ways. But a lot, again, drawing on the lessons of past movements, is that often that they would pass a resolution at their organisation in support of the Let Kashmir Decide and the mandate. And I think starting to get that going would be a real way to expand awareness, build support, and help develop unity around the very important issue of Kashmiri self-determination. So, look, it's been fantastic to hear from everybody, and I hope we can continue to work together.
That's fine. Yeah, great. And Karen?
Yeah, thanks for very much including me. I guess a couple of things. I mean, the real work of intersectionality, and we've been talking about that, is to be out, from my perspective, simply as an ally with the movements themselves. And, that means being out on the ground, if it's a pipeline being built through Indigenous land here in Canada, or whether it's, being in front of the police department around defund the police with Black Lives Matter. So it's not just a matter of networking, and we can never do enough of that work. And I come with much humbleness because I never have, haven't done that enough myself as well. So I bring that forward. There's so many areas we haven't had a chance to touch on. I mean, use of the law, certainly use of international law, and our own country's responsibility for those countries, which I think are most of them on the call here, of at least the Western imperial countries, around the United Nations, around the Fourth Geneva Convention, and that, our countries are complicit with war crimes, I'll put it that clearly, under Article 1 if we don't, take what is required in any circumstance to address violations in the Fourth Geneva Convention. And, in terms of the Domicile Act and moving forward in the last 18 months, I think that becomes more and more clear. Our own domestic laws, and using our own domestic laws, working and bringing, law and using it in those cases. And you're working on the political, the legal, the activists, the education, and those fronts together to be able to share that clear message, and to remember that we are, as people have said, in a much broader context, especially around Asia and the geopolitical and the movement around the Cold War against China, the implicit war against China at this point, and putting it into that broader context, and standing in solidarity. We've mentioned Palestine a lot today, but I mean, to stand in solidarity with the 6 additional, I think we're up to 10 groups on the ground, the Palestinian human rights groups that have been declared by the Israeli government terrorist groups over this year, 6 of them yesterday. And of course, that's not new to the people in Indian occupied Kashmir and the groups. I wouldn't even go there to compare the challenges of silencing, but for us to be there and standing with those and with people in our own context within our own countries as well. So those are just a few thoughts that come to mind, and thanks so much for including me.
Thank you very much, Karen. And Vikas, what you see opportunities there for this kind of movement in Azad Kashmir?
Yeah, there are a lot of opportunities, great opportunities. As you know, that the ordinary people in this entire world, they want peace. They don't want these killings. They don't want wars. They want to live with peace, dignity, and honor with their children, with their family. So that's what the ordinary, like citizens of any country, wants. So this moment is working for the peace and to resolve this deadly conflict in this region, because in this region, due to this Kashmir conflict, like it's a trilateral issue, and due to this issue, like it's a nuclear flashpoint in this region. So if like something will happen here, it will affect the whole world. So it's a great opportunity for peace-loving people all around the world to join us and work together for the peace and for the resolution of this deadly conflict, as per the wishes of the Kashmiri people. So like the different segments of the society, like the students, lawyers, different NGOs, human rights activists, media persons, and others, they can connect, they can work for the peace. This is a platform just for the peace and to strengthen the struggle and the peaceful movement of the Kashmir struggle. So I see like there are great opportunities here, and we can engage more people. We can bring more people in so they can raise their voice for the Kashmir, for the Palestine, for the Rohingyas, and and we can achieve a lot.
Thank you very much, Vikas. And now I think we are really run out of time. and we have left it, to conclude, to basically cover all important issues. And I have tried to share the mandate document here, but I'm afraid I can't. But I think we will definitely share on our JKTV page and on pages of all our friends and network, and we will make it available on maximum virtual space. And thank you very much, everybody, for taking part. And I think it was a very informative and very inspiring discussion. And yes, the struggles all around the world. When the people who are oppressing people, they are getting together, then all people who are struggling against oppression, they need to come together as well. And that is, I think, the future. And we have to get connected, and everybody who participated in this show obviously expressed that and demonstrated that, and we have to continue and we have to carry on trying. So yes, it is hard, but it's a hopeful future.
Yeah.
And thank you very much, everybody. And I'm sorry, Tanveer, that we could not really we really wanted to hear your perspective, because obviously he is there for last 14 years, and he's working from very grassroots level, and he has some very interesting experiences to share. But hopefully we will in near future we will have him on, and we will able to hear what he has to say. But thank you very much again, and this is all we had now for this show. Thank you very much, and goodbye.
Nice to meet you, Waqas and Parveen and
Yeah,
Karen
and everybody.
and everybody else. Yeah.
Thank you.
Lee.
Good to
Thank you,
participate
everybody.
with you all. Bye-bye.
Mhm.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank
Goodbye.
you.